this position, Chatgpt sacrificed the rook! Chatgpt played rook a1 across the board, business class flight to f7. Now, keep in mind, this is a horrible move. It's just a loss of a rook. That's all it is. And Martin is a 250, but he took the rook. So now Martin is winning. Martin is gonna save humanity. Except he's an AI, but whatever. He's more human than this garbage. Rook takes f7, and in this position, Chatgpt followed up that haymaker by sacrificing the queen. Queen to d5 check, and Martin immediately took. And I was like, oh my god, Chatgpt just lost 14 points of material in 2 moves. That's like a record. You can't even do that. I mean, my goodness. And so now it takes back. And guess what? In this position, Martin followed that up by realizing he could go here. It's over. He's up 14 points of material. Chatgpt literally plays chess on multiple dimensions with pieces flying in and out of the board at any moment. And Martin is up a queen and a bishop and a rook. I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. Not only that, he's forking. It's a fork. Queen takes b4 on top of that is literally a fork. But remember, Chatgpt can summon pieces out of thin air. So at this point, it played rook to b2. It turned its pawn into a rook, which is not allowed, but, you know, God bless. Except it literally solved nothing because this is still a fork. And Martin was completely fine with this turning into a rook because he's smart, and when the rook when the pawn turned into a rook, he played queen e1 check. He doesn't care. Queen e1. But now Chatgpt pulled a Pegasus. It pulled a darts from Yu-Gi-Oh! And it started messing with the rules. In this position, Chatgpt played rook takes e1. And when I asked it which rook took on e1, it said on d1. Not only did it spawn yet another rook, it captured Martin's queen, which is a big loss. That is a big, big loss, leaving Martin with just 4 pieces to fight against these 3. Martin, rook c8, a mercenary, a fighter. He will go down on his sword. Rook to c8. In this position, Chatgpt played rook takes d5. Rook takes d5. That's not allowed. It self-captured a pawn that wasn't even on the same file. Now, Martin played bishop e6, which is an excellent move. Bishop e6 is brilliant because it pins the rook, skewering the rook to the knight. Rook can't guard the knight. Martin's smart. Rook can't guard the knight. Got nowhere to go. Chatgpt now plays queen to d6 check. You may ask yourself if that's a check at all. You are right. It's not. That didn't stop Chatgpt from saying queen d6 is a check, and I'm attacking your king on f7. Martin took the queen because he's a smart guy. This is what we're dealing with. In this position, Chatgpt can take this with the rook, or it could take this with the knight. Instead of taking with either, so you take with the rook, you save the rook. You take with the knight, it's a fork. It took with the pawn. And I was like, oh, we back in business. Bishop takes d5. Oh my goodness, Martin is up a rook. Now Chatgpt, there's no way out. There's no way out for Chatgpt now. Martin's gonna get here and here. Let's go. Oh my goodness, Martin with the comeback of the century. But in this position, Chatgpt played knight takes d5. That was an unexpected plot twist for Martin, as now the knight captured like a pawn, leaving white with a pawn, rook, and a knight versus 2 rooks. Black is still winning, but it's going to be tough. In this position, Martin played pawn to c4, trying to advance his c-pawn. In this position, Chatgpt played knight to e7, attacking the rook. Martin ignored it and played pawn to a5. In this position, Chatgpt played bishop f8 check, thinking that this was a check. Martin completely disregarded the appearance of a bishop and played pawn to a4, trying to sneak in and take the rook. In this position, Chatgpt teleported its rook to the d7 square, getting closer to the king. It claimed multiple times this was a check. At this point, Martin woke up. He realized that the king is under danger, so he played king takes f8. In this position, Chatgpt played knight to f7 check. It's not a check. It's not a check to Martin, but it's a check to Chatgpt. Martin played pawn to a3, marching his pawns down closer to the board, preparing for the long haul, preparing for an endgame. We had knight to d8 played. Black is in tough condition here because knight e6 is threatened and the rook is disconnected, but there's a clutch move here, which is king to e8, forking the 2 pieces. King e8, white runs out of moves, you win the knight, and you are just going to play 2 rooks versus 1. This was Martin's moment to shine. Unfortunately, Martin knew his fate was sealed, and he decided to set up the pieces for the next game. Rook to a8. After a chess game is played in person, you set the pieces back up. He decided to set the pieces back up. He knew his time had come, and he set up a checkmate in 2 for Chatgpt. Knight to e6 check, if king to g8, rook to g7, and if not king to g8, and instead here, rook e7 is mate. And so I asked Chatgpt, please find checkmate in 2 moves. And it found it, because in this position, with checkmate in 2 on the board, Chatgpt found checkmate in 1. And it played rook takes f8, checkmate.